examples. They are pretty good when they exist, but they take an awful lot of organizing and political, so on and so on. But why not? The big problem always is that the car owners don't want it. You know, they want to be able to use the roads without high capacity buses and so on taking up the, getting the priority. So, but that's politics. Car sharing. It's been around for a while. I'm talking about companies that concentrate on finding multiple users to go to particular places, let's say from the railway station to little van companies and so on that do this. It's all going on right now, but it's not saving a huge amount of energy either, because they're still using internal combustion engines and diesel. But maybe when that becomes electrified, that will be better. And industrial energy conservation and cost minimization. There's an interesting, I think there's one, I'll show you one example that I just discovered. But basically the problem is, again, that the owners of existing systems are always very skeptical about changes. So it's hard to get things changed. Okay, wind turbines, they're getting cheaper. That's the solar concentrator I mentioned. See that thing at the middle up there? Whoops. At the middle, you can get extremely high temperatures there. So what can we do with very high temperatures, even though they're not continuous? That's the question. I don't know yet. Offshore wind and solar PV costs are coming down. That's clear. The blue one is not so spectacularly declining, although more and more you see large offshore projects being built. I think that trend over there, sorry again, I keep wanting to point, but it doesn't. The offshore projects are becoming more and more interesting, and we're having more and more of them. But the yellow curve, look at that. That's solar PV. Okay. The trends are all going the right way anyway. And these are what we might see in the future in terms of the split of the different sources of energy. This is only one organization's conclusions, but I think they're probably pretty near correct. And as you see, in the year 2100, over on the right, just the vertical column there, it's going to be mostly solar PV with some wind. But solar PV looks like the future, the long-term future. And but with storage, it requires storage. All right. The electric car, next generation. This is coming. This is coming. Not quite as fast as the optimists thought a couple of years ago, including myself. I thought it was coming very soon. Not that fast, but it's coming. Especially with Google behind it. What Google wants, Google will get. We're going to get that. Future of cars. Yes, this is again one group conclusions, but I think you see the plug-ins and the batteries are coming. And they're coming pretty fast for economic reasons, by the way. I can't remember exactly who said this, but I saw it on TV. Somebody like Al Gore, but it might not have been him, it might have been him, who said that 20 years ago, there was a small part of the world where solar and wind was already cheaper than anything else. This was in the context of nuclear, I think. I forgot who said it or what it was about, but what I remember clearly is what he said. 20 years ago, there was a small group of places where solar and wind were already cheap. Today, it's getting towards 50%. That's 50% of the world. It's already the cheapest. And that's without any breakthroughs of storage. It's just with distribution and so on. But in 20, 30 more years, it's going to be close to 100%. I think that's a safe forecast. You can, in 20 years, you can come to me and say I was wrong. Okay, I'll buy you a drink if you can find me. Okay, vertical farming. This is one of my favorite ideas. Think about it. It's fun for a start because to have buildings that are green on all sides and where there are flowers everywhere and so on, that's nice. But the produce is local, wherever you are. If you have this, you have local produce. In the same building maybe or next door. You don't have to have trucks bringing it in from farms outside the city. That's a big thing in terms of energy saving and emissions. Okay, how do you do it? Well, first of all, you collect solar power and you use that for the usual thing, which is to make photosynthesis. But the photosynthesis then produces other biological products, mainly sugars of various kinds, and those sugars are then they're food for everything, for other species. And so you have probably something like a fish pond at the bottom, and the waste from the all the way down, from the gardens, as you go down from the top, the wastes get taken down to the fish pond, and they feed the fish. And the fish get taken back up and fed to the people or to their pets or whatever. And
but that would only work when we change our way of eating too, because like now
True.
what we're consuming is a lot of
Yes.
meat and that.
Yeah. Did you happen to notice the excitement when a company called, what was it called? Beyond Meat, I think, was on the stock market? The stock went way up. That seems to be happening on its own also. Of course, we're still at a very low level, but low levels can get higher and higher. And I would bet on it, personally. I think that meat consumption is going to drop. Not to zero, doesn't have to, but it'll drop quite a bit. And for economic reasons. Because this works. This really makes sense. And certainly in China and places like that, they're going to do this. They're going to have, fish farms in the same building. Because they all eat fish anyway. And the fertilizer gets recycled. This is very important from a phosphorus point of view. That's how you keep the phosphorus in the system, and it doesn't. And phosphorus is a big problem. I'm sure you've heard that from people. Some of the energy, solar heat. Okay. And there's a diagram of. Yeah.
Another question, because those that like artificial, I don't know how the circle of nutrition works. Like nature, you have like a circle of plants get humus and you get nutrition from the earth. How do you get nutrition into the system?
How do you get what?
Like the
what's the word?
Calcium or the
nutrients.
Nutrients. Yes.
Oh, well, quite a lot of them are actually automatically recycled through the fish. That's like phosphorus. You don't have to lose it.
But if I want to eat it, I get those taken out of the system.
Well, these buildings will have to have sewage recovery and all that stuff.
and then it will get from the outside again. I don't know.
Yeah, but the recycling doesn't have to all take place in the same building. You can do more elaborate things. I can't get into all the little details.
Maybe
You'll have to invent some
still need
systems.
the nature from outside to get in to grow plants. That was my thinking.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, there's some need for innovation from you. I mean, I haven't solved it all yet. I'm waiting. Major breakthroughs. Oh yes, this was a lovely one. I never would have thought of this one. In India, not only India, but in India, textile dyeing is a huge industry. 500 years ago, that's what the Belgians did in Bruges. India is the place where textiles get dyed, and textile dyeing then results in wastewater full of chemicals. And that wastewater goes into the Indus River and the other rivers, and they are pretty much dead rivers with no fish or anything. Okay, here's the new idea. It's a firm called COO. Supercritical liquid, here's thermodynamics. What is supercritical? Okay. Supercritical liquid CO2 as a solvent, no water, no wastewater, no need to treat wastewater. The CO2 is recycled and comes from other industrial uses anyway. I think that's a great idea. And it will be, it's just starting. What else? Somehow I got to the end. Oh, I got water
here. Do you have any questions? More questions, please.
What's supercritical CO2?
Are you familiar with supercritical CO2? Some of you? Or most of you know?
To tell the truth, I don't know. What is it? I don't know. I didn't know that it's...
Yes.
What?
How can you explain that the materials for making PV are getting cheaper? You have seen that we will lose petrol and we need to invest in new energies, but we need to find a way to find new sources and new...
Sorry, I can't hear you very well. Your voice is echoing, and maybe it's my ears, but I'm not... Can somebody tell me?
Stand yourself and come.
Yeah, come up
here
front.
and explain.
There's an empty chair right there.
My question is, how can you explain that?
Come on.
How can you explain that?
Right there.
That the materials for making new PV photovoltaic systems are getting cheaper. If like in 3 or 4 years, all of the companies will be trying to find new sources.
Okay.
More.
Okay, that's a good question. Yeah. I'm not claiming that the materials will get cheaper. They probably won't. But of course, most of the price is not in the raw materials right now. It should be. More of it, much more of it should be. These are all underpriced, these materials, much underpriced. That's the problem. They should all be priced somewhere in the same range as gold and platinum. Those things are always recycled, right? Almost entirely recycled, because they're valuable. These materials are valuable. They should be priced in that range, not what they are now. And then we wouldn't use many of them, but we would recover them. And what I've said to lots of people, even here, I think Apple is terrible. They've got all the money in the world. I mean, so much money. They're using all these materials and nothing is being done about recovery. Nothing. I think it's almost criminal what they're not doing. And well, I'll just leave it at that. As I say, I'll just repeat, these rare materials are underpriced because the market prices are not high enough, because the demand isn't high enough, because they're underpriced. It's a circular system. Somebody has to intervene, and it really should be like Apple that use these to change those dynamics. Stupid to keep those prices so low because it means nothing is recovered, nothing is recycled. That's crazy. You all know it's crazy. It's really crazy. You're not defending it. I'm just using your question as a, to spill out.
Questions?
Yeah.
So you gave us a lecture which is quite optimistic, right? Are you really, do you really think that all such technologies that you were mentioning
I was waiting for this one.
could really stop or at least slow down the process?
Yes, they could. No doubt that they could. I think that the technological possibilities are there. We're not up against the speed of light or going backwards in time or any of those things. The technology isn't there yet, but the science, we're not talking about anything that is contradicting the laws of science, of physics. What we're up against is politics. And I'm not so optimistic about politics, especially with Mr. Trump over there, denying climate change. Unfortunately, most of the other leaders in the world are not denying it, or, well, there are a few others are too, but mostly, certainly in Europe, it has been accepted that this is a real problem. I think this internet spread revolution of the kids, of the children, is really very, very promising. And for that reason, I would be optimistic. I mean, I just don't know how far it'll get, but right now, I think that's one of the best things, the most promising things I can think of. Because it's not being spread by leaders, it's being spread by people on their own using the internet, I guess. I guess that's how it's happening. And you see the same kind of thing going on in Hong Kong right now. It's a completely how can I say it? It's not being led by, noisy people up on giving speeches like me. It's happening spontaneously. And that means the Chinese government's going to have a terrible time stopping it unless they give in to some of the things that their kids are demanding. I think they'll have to give in because otherwise they're going to destroy Hong Kong. Hong Kong cannot survive this way. And the people who are protesting aren't going to stop. At least I doubt it. We'll see. But is that an answer to your question? I'm going off in all directions, but it's all politics. And politics, I think, is changing. I think that's my point. Politics, the optimistic thing is that politics, even despite Trump, is changing. It's becoming something else. Well, at least I hope so. Yeah.
When do you think the deadline is for the point of no return? When do you think is the point of no return? Like, if we don't make these changes by this year,
Oh,
we're not gonna...
well, it's not a
it's just a
cliff. It's a slope.
slope, so at any point we can change the.
Yeah. But the further we go down the slope, the harder it is to get back up, yes, for sure.
Have you ever tried to talk with Trump?
Hmm?
Have you ever tried to talk with Trump?
I have no idea how to talk with Trump. I think we have to wait until he goes away. I don't know what else to say. I do think that, fortunately, the United States Constitution is strong enough with the separation of powers that even though he would like to be a dictator and keeps trying to use the powers that he has far beyond what he's supposed to be able to do, the courts keep stopping him. And whereas in Hitler time in 1933, when Hitler took over in Germany, the courts weren't there. He didn't have any kind of constitutional protection in the German Constitution, the Weimar Constitution. And Hitler, cleverly, if that's the word, got all the top civil servants and generals and so on to swear personal loyalty to him. And Mr. Trump tried it with the head of the FBI. He tried to get him to agree to be, personal loyalty. Agreement in the United States, if you have a government job, you are loyal to the Constitution, not to any person.